Hey guys, and welcome to another podcast. Right off the bat, I just want to say thank you for last week. The response I got on last week's podcast was absolutely incredible. My DMs filled up on Instagram and also Facebook. People said how they are so excited to start applying those techniques in their life that I talked about. Some people responded to me and said, "Thank you. I've been on TRT for way too long and it's been too expensive." And these people, they thanked me for giving them tips, and just the response was awesome. And I just want to say thank you. I have the best followers. I have the best following, such a supportive and loving fan base. I love that about all you guys. And also, the listeners on this podcast are going through the roof. We continue to get hundreds of more views pouring in every single week. Last week's podcast hit an all-time high in most episode viewings. I also put last week's podcast on YouTube as well. So we're going to see if we can get an audience maybe built out there too. But we are slowly growing, guys. We are slowly building this fan base around this one warrior mentality with life. And I hope I can bring you guys so much more content. I did a poll this week on my Instagram stories. So if you're not following me on Instagram, I recommend doing that. I did a poll asking which podcast you guys wanted me to do this week. It was either going to be bodybuilding on a budget or how to break through a plateau. And if you watched this morning's story, or I guess when you're listening to this, it will be yesterday morning's story. It was a tie. It was a tie. 44 votes total was the number total. There was 22 for each poll. So I had to flip a coin. So I flipped a coin and it landed on bodybuilding on a budget. So that's going to be the topic today. But like I told my Instagram followers, we're going to do the other topic next week. So just stay tuned for that. If your poll didn't get picked this week, we're going to be doing all that next week. So, and also I do want to say thank you guys again for last week's support on the video. It was a long podcast, 2.5 hours. I didn't know how it was going to go through, but you guys apparently loved it. So I don't know if you guys just like listening to me talk or what, but we're going to bring you another podcast today, and it's bodybuilding on a budget. Now, anytime we talk about budget, it's a plan, and a plan has to be applied to something for it to work. And a budget is something that you have to stick to. And I have learned how difficult this lifestyle is when it comes to money. I have had jobs where I was making a lot of money and I could be more frugal and didn't have to worry so much. And I've also had jobs, or no jobs for that matter, and I was living, on very little money, on very little, to where I had to eat the bare minimum to still get to my goals. In other words, I have done this both ways. I have done this being extremely poor, and I have done this making quite a bit of money. But either way I do this, I always try to follow a budget, because a budget is a system, and a system usually will help you get to your goals. That's something you need to remember for anything in life. A system is always a good thing to come about, to build whenever you're trying to reach a goal. Whether it be a life goal or a long-term goal or even a short-term goal. A system is something you have to build and stick to reach that. But we're going to talk a little bit, go into all of this kind of things about how a budget can work, and some experience that I've had and noticed in my life, and a bunch of other things. We're going to go into a grocery list today. We're going to talk about supplements. We're going to talk about life things you can change. At the end of this podcast, you should know how to cut back your grocery bill, and all your bills for that matter, each month, because you're going to realize how important it is to be on a budget, and how important it is to save as much money as a month as possible. Because if you know anything about me, I have never been a person that has went out and bought a ton of stuff. I have never been a person that had to have the newest things all the time. As a matter of fact, I only buy a new pair of shoes like every 3 to 5 years. I wear everything I have to the death. If it has holes in it, it's still good. It's good until it rips and it's not wearable. And I've done that because it's important to save money in life. It's important not to blow it on stupid things. It's important not to blow it on clothing and stuff like that. If you go to the richest people in the world, I mean, think of Steve Jobs, for example, when he was alive. Steve Jobs, what did he wear every single day? He wore a black long shirt and jeans. That's what he wore. That's what he wore every single day, even when he was going onto the stage for Apple events. Let's look at Mark Zuckerberg. I know a lot of people can't stand him. I can't stand him either. But he always wears a gray shirt and jeans. Super simple stuff. No brands, nothing fancy. And these guys, Steve Jobs, billionaire. And Mark Zuckerberg, absolute billionaire, filthy freaking rich. These guys did that because they learned how to budget. They learned how to live on bare minimums and invest everything that they don't use. That is something that I have learned in my life. Invest everything that you don't use in your monthly bills, and you can build wealth at a very young age. So that's just a rant off life there topic, but I see so many young people blowing their money on all kinds of shit, all kinds of clothing that they're going to outwear, and these fancy shirts and everything that are $40, $50. My shirts, I don't pay anything more than $17 for a shirt. I mean, I am extremely cheap on all my clothing. My jeans are all Levi jeans. My most expensive suit was only $200. That's it. Any dress clothes I have, I never paid more than $30 for a dress shirt. I shopped extremely cheap, and I've always done that. It's one of the reasons why I am very, happy with where I am financially in my life. But at the same time, I'm not filthy rich, definitely not that. But I am financially happy in my life. I am financially happy because I have figured out how to live very cheaply, very easily. And I recommend everybody do that because that will allow you not have to work for other people. It will allow you to have more freedom. When you stop living like you're rich and start living like you're poor, even when you're making money, that is when you will financially become good and well off. Remember that. When you are poor, or when you are rich, or when you are making money in this life, live like you're poor. And that will extend and be financial freedom for life. Just some life tips to start out with today. So let's get into this. So budgeting for me, let's start out high school, because I know I have high schoolers that listen to me. I know I have college people that listen to me. And I know I have adults living in the real world, working jobs and having families listen to me. So let's cover all those bases. Let's cover all those topics. The first is high school. When I was in high school, it was great. You lived at home. Your parents bought the food. You ate the food. You could do what you wanted and you worked out. Now, did that mean that I didn't contribute anything to any grocery bills or anything like that? No, I probably helped out some or whatnot. I can't remember fully, but I know I bought my own supplements back then. But I always did so in the cheapest way possible. So even in high school, I was still thinking about saving money. I've always been a saver. I've never been a spender. Whenever I make a big spend, I literally think about it for weeks before I do it. College experience for me. I was on a very tight budget. I did not work in college. I know a lot of people work in college. When I went to college, I did not work. I wanted to focus on school. And I also just wanted to have a good time because I knew college was going to be the one time in my life where I didn't have to worry about much and I could just go have a good time. And I recommend all college students do that. I recommend having a good time because when you leave college, you're going to realize that the real world hits, and it hits hard. Bills, finances build up. I mean, there's just a whole bunch of shit that you have to worry about after college. But when you're in college, you're kind of free at that time. That was like the time in my life where I felt like I could do anything and, just experience anything, have all the fun, party, focus on my grades. And I recommend everybody do that. I'm not going to say that you have to work in college. I didn't work in college. I don't think any of my family members worked when they went to college. My older sister may have worked a small-time job. I'm not sure on that. But for the most part, our parents gave us an allowance to spend each week in college. And like I said, it wasn't much. It wasn't a ton. I mean, we all us kids in this family, we grew up, knowing the importance of money and knowing the importance of budgeting and not to waste money. So we all, went through college being very budget friendly. We stayed with a budget. We learned how to budget at a young age, and we did that. So in college, college is when I really started branching out on my own and buying my own food. I learned how expensive food can be, and I learned what grocery lists should consist of to be on a budget. I stuck with, stir fries for dinner, lots of white rice, milk, whole eggs, bread. All these basic things that are very cheap, and that's what it comes down to, living as cheap as you can. Now, I was very fortunate. In college, I had this apartment, and I lived with three other guys. I had one roommate, and then two other guys lived in the same apartment as us on the other side of the apartment. And it was a pretty nice apartment. We had a living room, a kitchen, a bath, two bedrooms, two bathrooms. It was pretty nice. We had a kitchen even. We had an oven. We had a microwave. I know a lot of people go through college and are in dorm rooms. I'm very thankful that I never had to go through that, because that would have been hard. That would have been a lot of canned tuna, a lot of pre-cooked rice. That would have been a lot of more challenges, I would have to say, to live in a dorm room. My little sister and my older sister, they both were in a dorm room for the first part of college, and I know my little sister, she, after the first year, went and got a house after that, because she couldn't stand being in a dorm room. And I understand completely. And my older sister, I think she went through most of her college career in a dorm room for the most part, except for when well, I don't know, actually. I can't speak on that. I don't know that much about my older sister's college career. But at the end of the day, we all were pretty fortunate to not have to be in a dorm room. So if you are in a dorm room, I don't quite get how difficult it is, because I've never had to do it myself. But the tips I talk about today probably can help you nonetheless. So that was, college. And then being an adult, when you come home from college, when you get your own house or start renting your own place, you are really thrown into the real world. And that is when the budget is the most important. That is when you need to figure out how to save money, how to put money, where to put money away at, how much to spend each month, how much to donate to your lifestyle of bodybuilding, how much to use on groceries, and also to determine, your goals. If you're, for instance, if you're not doing real well financially, chances are you're not going to be in a calorie surplus. You're going to be dieting. And I've had to do that in my life. Times where money has been really tight, I cut back on food and I diet. That's times where I diet. And when I'm doing better financially, I'm an online coach. Some months are better than others. Some months I make good, some months I don't. And for me, that's a lifestyle that I've learned to live with. Some months I eat like a king. Some months I eat like I'm very poor. But it just depends on the month. And a budget, you're going to have to figure that out. If you have a really a job that gives you an income each week, well, then you can easily budget that out, know exactly what you have to spend for each thing in your life, and know how much if you have a family, making sure to put enough for them too. And if you're single, you have a lot more easier. I've been single most of my life, pretty much all my life. I've never had a serious relationship. But if you're single, you have this. So the first thing you have to know when doing this is it can be hard, but it can be done. It is very easy, to just, when you have more money, to just buy exactly what you need, exactly what you want. But even on a budget, you can create an amazing physique, because at the end of the day, remember, calories are just that, calories. It doesn't matter. Your body really doesn't know the difference between the carbs in bread compared to the carbs in rice. Very little difference in that. Now, yes, when it comes to meat, if you've read my book, I talk very high about red meat, very high in the fact that red meat has so many more vitamins in it and minerals in it than white meat and fish. If you know me, I don't eat very much white meat, if any at all, and very little fish, because most of my meat is red meat, or I also do pork as well, because those are much more nutrient dense meats. But that, is something that in my life, as I've gotten to the point where I can spend a little bit more, that's what I've switched to. But am I saying that if you are on a budget and you are very tight with a tight budget, that you should be using that to buy red meat? No, absolutely not. I am not saying that. I would rather, and I've done this myself too in the past, I have gone through months where every night for dinner was a stir fry with canned tuna. Canned tuna, whole eggs, rice, vegetables cut up in there. I've done that too, and I had great results. Of course, I noticed a lot better results with red meat, but I had built a solid physique too, even with tuna, canned tuna. at the end of the day, you have to fit what you can into your budget. If you can fit red meat into there, I highly recommend it. It's highly worth a little bit paying extra for the red meat, I think. But because your performance is also going to go up too in the gym, your performance will be better. You'll feel more fullness in the gym, more pump. You'll just feel altogether better, more energy, stronger, sleep better. All those things will come from red meat. That's why I do, advise throwing a little bit extra if you can toward red meat instead of chicken or fish or anything like that. You're going to get more bang for your buck. I always say people, pay for quality. Don't worry about the quantity of things so much, but pay for quality. If you want something good, throw a little bit extra for it. I think that's worth it. So the next one is plan your meals for the week. Before even going to the grocery store, this is something I did for a very long time. I don't do it anymore, but for a long time in my life, this is exactly how I would go about it. On Sunday would be the day I would go get groceries. But before I went groceries, I went to this app on my phone called MyFitnessPal. Now, there are a lot better macro tracking apps nowadays. Macros is a great one that I have a lot of my clients using just because it's so simple, clean, straightforward, no ads. I can't remember if it costs money. It might be a couple bucks, like $2 or $3, but totally worth it. And it's just a very clean interface. And what I would do every weekend before I went to the grocery store, what I would do is open up this app and I would go through Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, every weekday that I knew that I would need to plan a meal for and that I'd need to shop for, and I would track it in that app. And I would make sure that my meals are all filled out ahead of time. I know so many people that just wake up in the morning, eat something, and then they track it. My meals were already tracked for the week. Every Sunday, I had tracked for the next week. Now, yes, you could say that was obsessive compulsive, but I was so motivated. If you don't know me, I am a very driven person. When I have goals, when I'm trying to reach things, I do whatever it takes to get to the goal. I literally set everything aside in my life and I put everything into the goal. It's probably one of the reasons I don't have a girlfriend, because I probably don't, wouldn't dedicate enough time for her, just because I'm such a driven individual. But being that driven individual that I would plan out everything a week in advance. I would know exactly, you could ask me on Sunday what I was going to eat for dinner on Wednesday night, and I could tell you exactly to the macro, to the calorie, what it was, what it consisted of. I could tell you exactly what meats I had when I had them throughout the day, when I used to track like this. And I did this for years. I did this for probably over 6, maybe 7 years of my 16-year journey in this so far. After 7 years of doing it, I think I kind of stopped and whatnot, but I know I did it for at least 5 to 6 years. I know that because I have the records back in MyFitnessPal. I can literally pull up to show you. So for anybody that says I didn't do this, I can literally go back in MyFitnessPal and prove to you that I did that. So I have the records that I can show that I've planned all this stuff out in advance. And I recommend you do too, especially if you're on a budget. Because when you're on a budget, what did I say at the beginning of this podcast? A system is what helps you get to your goals. And if you don't have a system, you don't have a plan. And if you don't have a plan, you're going to fail. That's all there is to it. You're going to fail. You're going to go off the plan. You're going to go off your budget, blow more money than you need to. And then you're going to kind of be, shit out of luck till your next money comes in. So that's why it's so important to plan for the week ahead. Know exactly, plan your day, figure out your day, what your day you're going to get groceries. I'm not saying you have to go Sunday, but for me, Sunday was the best day that worked. Maybe yours is Friday night after work or something. What I'm saying is make sure before you even enter the grocery store, you enter everything out for the next week in MyFitnessPal. Now, if you are a younger guy and you still live with your parents and they make you a dinner, when I was growing up, we worried about having lunch and breakfast, but my parents would make dinner. So for me, I would figure out the best things I could eat for lunch and breakfast and whatnot. And then dinner, I would have to just do it what my family made. My mom always made an amazing dinner and you just dealt with it. And a lot of people have that. So what I recommend for that is track everything you can except for dinner. So track your breakfast and lunch, maybe some snacks in there every day, and then allow your room for dinner. Allow a good, 1,200 calories for dinner so you can pig out at dinner. You don't have to space your calories throughout the day. If you've read my book, you understand this, how you can eat 1 meal a day or you can eat 5 meals a day. At the end of the day, the overall calories is what matter. You can eat 500 calories for breakfast and you can eat 3,000 calories for dinner. As long as you're in your calorie limit for the day or for the week for that matter, that's all that matters. So that's why it's so important to just plan out. Just have your plans and leave some space. If you know you're going to go out with friends on Friday night, don't track dinner in your app on that night. Just leave it go. Allow yourself a good wiggle room to go. And if you're in a calorie surplus, well, then you have a little bit more freedom. You don't really have to worry so much about budgeting out your calories for that matter. You can easily just pig out when you kind of want to, if you're trying to build mass and trying to put on weight, because I do recommend when you're younger to kind of just go off a little bit sometimes and do what you want. You kind of need that time to do that. But without getting off topic too much here, let's try to stay on topic here. Plan meals for the week ahead is just that. Before you enter the grocery store, make sure for the next week you have things set. You know what you're going to eat, when you're going to eat it. And if you're planning to have dinner with family or maybe friends, leave some blank spaces in your tracking app. But for the most part, everything is tracked ahead of time. That way you have a plan, a system, and that system and plan will lead you to your goals over time as long as you can keep that up. If you have a family, this could be difficult. That's like I talked about, if you have a family of your own, I guess what I meant when I put this on my sheet here is if you have a family that you have to supply for, cook for, let's say you're let's see, I'm 30 and I'm single with no family of my own. So let's say you're 30, you have a family of your own, you have kids to supply things for. You have to make sure and budget enough out for them. What do I recommend for that is your kids should eat the same thing you do. If I ever do have kids, I am not going to be a parent who makes them something separate. They are going to eat what I eat. They are going to eat the things that I fix for my wife and myself. I will not be a parent that just goes and makes a steak and rice and eggs for me and my wife and then makes macaroni and cheese for the kids. No, I will not do that. They're going to eat the same thing as me. They're going to be eating steak. They're going to be eating rice. That's just how I was raised. My parents, they never made anything separate for us. We ate what was on the table. If we didn't like it, we didn't eat. That was just how we grew up. Kids nowadays, they are spoiled like crazy when parents buy all this extra stuff and all this extra processed food and everything for them. If the kids are not eating what the parents eat, they just won't eat then because they'll get hungry enough and they will eat eventually. That's some good parenting tips for you. Raise the kids like you are going. Because if you are trying to reach a goal, that goal is obviously going to be good for your kids too. A steak is always going to be way more better for your kids than macaroni and cheese. Just going out there and saying that. And I'm not saying kids can't enjoy macaroni and cheese. That's fine. They can do that. But if you make a steak dinner for you and your wife or you and your husband and your kids are asking for something else, teach your kids how precious a steak is to have for dinner because you went through times in your life when you were eating canned tuna and rice. So teach your kids these things to be very, very, gracious and very happy and grateful for the food that they have that's on the table. Because you can go from experience and tell them, I used to live off canned tuna and rice in a dorm room in college. And kids will usually listen to you and respect you from that too. If you raised them right, they won't rebel against you in that case. The next one is, make the grocery list. Now we get to the point where we make the grocery list. So we have our meals tracked out for the week in the app. We know exactly what we're going to eat, when we're going to eat it. Everything's tracked. But now we need to make the grocery list. Now I have created 3 different grocery lists for you here. The first one is a $70 to $80 list. Now, if you are a single person, you can get by spending, $80 to $100 a week. That's usually when I was making good money in my life before I went out on my own. I was spending about $110 a week and I was eating good. Nowadays I spend like maybe 75 at the most 80. So I've cut that down a lot since, going out on my own, not working for anybody, being my own boss. I've cut that down a lot. So in these lists, I've created a $70 to $80 list, a $60 to $70 list, and a $50 list, for those people that are on a very tight budget. I think you need to at least spend $50 a week to be able to get enough to eat. Otherwise, that might be very difficult, especially not to get political, but inflation going crazy. And all I'm going to say about that, I don't want to lose followers for different political parties, but inflation in our country is going to hell. Let's just say that. You can infer what you want about who I wanted to be president. So with the first list, $70 to $80 list. And one thing you should keep in mind, most of the things you buy in the grocery store to stay in a budget should be out of the aisles. So on the edge of the aisles, out of the aisles. Now, there are a few things, you have to go in the aisles for, coffee, green tea, condiments, some things like that. But for the most part, the majority of your things can be found outside the aisle. They're more whole foods. They're just, the cheaper foods and what you need to go about. So the first thing, on this list is spinach. Having a good vegetable is important. So spinach is a pretty cheap vegetable for that matter. So I spinach, just buy it raw, eat it raw, use it for spinach salads. Bananas, very, very cheap fruit, very efficient. If you have my book, you know why I like bananas so much. They are nature's multivitamin, as I called them in my book, just because of how powerful of a fruit they are and what they contain in them for how cheap they are. White rice, and also with bananas, bananas, some people have this mentality where they think they can't eat more than one banana a day. I went through times in my life where I had 3 or 4 bananas a day because they are just very, very nutritious, loaded with potassium. For athletes, for bodybuilders, they are a great recovery fruit. They are just awesome. They're awesome in so many ways. White rice, if you know me, I love my white rice. White rice is very cheap. It is going up in price, though, sadly, but at one time it was very, very cheap. I miss those days, but it's still pretty cheap, and white rice is very, very digestible. I like white rice because everybody can digest white rice. There's not one person on the planet that can have problems with white rice. Brown rice, yes, people can have problems with brown rice digestive-wise. White rice, there's not one person on the planet that can, unless you have some type of rice allergy, if that even is a thing, I'm not even sure. But most people, literally most people, can digest white rice. It's one of the most easy digested grains out there on the planet. Very easy to digest. And it's very easy to load for calories, too. If you need a lot of calories, white rice is very rich in calories, so it's very efficient. Next is canned tuna. I had to put this on here because it's just an essential. For any bodybuilder knows canned tuna is very cheap. Still, it's only $1 a can, even with inflation going on. Very, very cheap, and each can of tuna has 24 grams of protein. That's awesome. That is awesome. That's fantastic. Some people will say, what about mercury? So I can't really speak on this. I have gone through periods in my life, though, where I was so poor I could only afford canned tuna and rice. And that's all I ate. Canned tuna and rice. Maybe some eggs, too. But I was to a point one time where I was eating 4 or 5 cans of tuna a day, every day, and I never once had a problem with my mercury levels. So I don't know what the true science is behind that. You might want to look that up for yourself, but I know lots of people will say, oh, don't eat too much canned tuna. The mercury will kill you. I am not dead, and I've gone through phases in my life where I've gone months with only eating canned tuna because that's all I could afford. And I was great. My energy was great. My sleep was good. My testosterone was still good. My energy at the levels of the gym, everything was good. I was having no problems. So I'm just going from experience here. Make your own judgment on that. But I had no problems with canned tuna, to be honest. Lunch meat is the next one. Lunch meat. People will think lunch meat is so bad for you. You hear all these people that say, oh, it's loaded with all this processed sodium and it's bad for you. I love lunch meat. Lunch meat is great. It's cheap. Usually it's $4 for a bag of 16 ounces of meat. I like ham a lot. It's rich in sodium, has a lot of sodium, so you get to the gym and you just feel super pumped. I have lunch meat sandwiches for lunch almost every day nowadays. I mean, that's just my favorite lunch. I make 3 or 4 sandwiches for lunch and I go about it. It's cheap. It's delicious. It tastes good. Who doesn't love a good sandwich packed with sodium? And it's great. Like I said, and I'm not dead, and I eat tons of lunch meat. I'm not dead. Just going out there and saying that. Cheese. Cheese is great. It's going up crazy in price lately, but when it's on sale, I buy it and I stock up and I put what I don't use in the freezer because sales is something to always pay attention to. What I've noticed mostly lately, with inflation going on, most grocery stores are rotating what's on sale. And then the weeks that they aren't on sale, they overprice things, so they make back what they lost. So what I've noticed lately is cheese at my local grocery store is on sale every third week of the month. Steak is on sale every 4 weeks of the month. And dairy milk is on sale every other week. So for me, what I do is buy the things on sale, whatever's on sale that week, and I store it, extra of it, in the freezer, so I have more of it those weeks that it's not on sale. Remember when there was a president in our office that kept inflation under control and you didn't have to do these crazy things? Yeah, that was a good time. But nonetheless, shopping for sales is important. Knowing sales, buying what even if you don't need it that week, if it's on sale, buy it. Put it in your freezer. You can store cheese in your freezer. You can store milk in your freezer. You can store things in your freezer. They last. Freezers are a very good thing. And if things are on sale, use that to your advantage. Freeze things, because nowadays with the inflation and supply chain, things are going to hell. And I recommend just people have things just in case shit goes to absolute complete hell. So with the next is bread. Buy cheap bread. Buy cheap white bread. I always buy the cheapest white bread there is. I remember there used to be a time you could buy bread for $1.30 a loaf, which was great. Now I'm paying $2.50 a loaf. Yeah, okay. But bread, it's still pretty cheap for that matter. It's still easy to use. I mean, it's great on calories. I go with white bread because I don't like whole grain. I don't like wheat. That stuff is hard on my stomach, hard on my gut, and hard on a lot of people's guts. So I just stick with white. I stick with white bread. I stick with white rice. I stick with white potatoes. If it's white, chances are it digests right. And I think I used a term like that in my book too, which I had to be careful to not come across racist, because I'm not racist at all. This is not a racist compliment. I have many black friends. But white, when it comes to grains, is a great thing. Okay, I'm just saying that. Not racist about anything on this. All I'm saying is when it comes to white grains in general, they digest usually better than the brown grains or the wheat or the whole grain. Man, this sounds absolutely terrible, but oh well. If I haven't lost you listening yet, steak is the next one. So steak, I have this on the $70 to $80 list because steak is something that you should be able to afford on the 70 to 80 list. What I do is I have steak every night for dinner. Usually, and I buy whatever's on sale, whatever's cheapest. Sometimes it's round steak. Sometimes it's sirloin, arm roast steak. I literally go buy the steaks every week, and what's on sale is what I grab for the week. And what I do every week for myself, I found for me, I eat 5 ounces of steak a night with my eggs and everything. For me, that's right around 2.25 pounds a week. So for me, that's right around $17 to $20 a week that I pay for steak. That's not that bad. $17 to $20 a week I'm getting for that super meat, that meat that has all those extra B vitamins and minerals, choline and L-carnitine and zinc and all those good things that you don't get from white meat. I'm getting from paying a little bit extra in red meat. So I think that's worth it. I have milk on here. I love milk. I drink a ton of milk. I use milk actually as my post-workout drink right when I get home. I have a big glass of milk and then I have another glass of milk with dinner. I stopped using protein powders a few months back just because I was trying to have a better budget. I decided, protein powders is just that, protein powders. And I found that milk, maybe it doesn't have as much protein, but the main thing after a workout is just to get a good amount of something in, whether it be, in that first hour after workout, I recommend at least getting something with calories in, even if it's just a glass of milk. That's better than nothing. If you can easily afford it though, whey protein is obviously a great go-to. I haven't taken whey protein for over a couple years now. I stopped buying it during right before COVID, actually. I've been using milk probably ever since then. But yeah, I just pour a big glass of milk. A big glass of milk contains right around 22 to 24 grams of protein. It contains about 30, big glass of milk would contain right about around 40 grams of carbs. So you're getting about 24 grams of protein, 40 grams of carbs, and depending on what percentage of milk you buy fat-wise, I usually buy 1%. 1% or 2%. When I'm in a big calorie surplus, I go with 2%. But lately, I've just been buying 1%. I've just wanted a lighter milk lately, is all. So I've been going with the 1%. So a big glass of milk would probably supply you with around 24 grams of protein, 40 grams of carbs, and right around 6 to 7 grams of fat, which is a perfect post-workout drink, and it's cheap. It's a lot cheaper than whey protein. So that's what I do personally for my post-workout. Just have a big glass of milk. You can do chocolate milk, regular milk, doesn't really matter. It's just something. And then you have dinner, obviously too. Eggs. Eggs are an essential thing. Eggs are something that I've always bought even when I could not afford much at all, because eggs are great. I went through phases where I would just throw tons of eggs in a pan, make my white rice, and then eat it all together. I would do 10 whole eggs, and then I'd do 200 grams of white rice. And I would just, and that'd be a great meal. That's a nice 1,500 calorie meal. But yes, eggs are something that you should always have in your fridge just because they're so awesome. I mean, one egg, think about this. One egg consists around 60 to 70 calories total, depending on the size of the egg. It's around 6 to 7 grams of protein, around 5 grams of fat, and 0 carb. So literally, they are an excellent way to add calories to any meal. For instance, and I talk about this in my book, how you can use whole eggs to up your calories or lower your calories over time. But if you make a stir fry, and stir fry is, in your meal plan, and everything, the stir fry consists of rice and tuna and 3 whole eggs. Then later on, let's say you're not putting on weight, you want to up your calories. Okay, throw a couple more whole eggs in that. You'll get more calories, more protein, and also on top of that, you're getting awesome healthy fats, great cholesterol. People will say, oh, whole eggs, I'm going to die because of the cholesterol. Well, you didn't listen to last week's podcast because I talked about how cholesterol is great for testosterone. HDL, HDL in eggs. Eggs will raise your HDL cholesterol, which is a great thing for your overall testosterone levels. What I talked about last week, cholesterol is a good thing. People hate on it, and those same people that hate on it have low T. I guarantee it, because people who eat cholesterol-rich based foods, red meat, dairy, cheese, whole eggs, those people are the jacked people in your gym. They are the people lifting a shit ton of weight, looking jacked, ridiculous, and those are the same people that you're accusing on steroids, but really they're just eating a monstrous amount of cholesterol. Just a little side rant there. Don't hate on cholesterol till you try a higher cholesterol diet and see how damn great you start feeling. Next one is cottage cheese. Cottage cheese is another easy, awesome one you can add to anything. This is a great substitution for sour cream. Some people love to put sour cream on things, and sour cream is higher in fat. Cottage cheese is a great substitution for that. Highly recommend you have that on your grocery list. Greek yogurt snacks, these are just awesome, essential. 15 grams of protein per one little Greek yogurt snack is awesome. It's just an easy, quick little protein source, and they're usually not too expensive. You can usually get them on sale too. And then I also have frozen pizza on this list, because if you know me and you've read my book, you know I follow the one pizza a weekday, or one whole pizza a week plan, which is every Sunday night I eat a whole pizza. And I do that for many reasons. I don't want to discuss all the reasons here, but if you have my book, you know why I do that and the benefits of eating a crazy high calorie pizza on top of what you already ate for the day. You notice, you will know what I'm talking about, the benefits of it if you have my book. But I have that in this podcast too, because frozen pizzas, they're usually cheap. They're loaded in calories. They're cheap. They're delicious. Who doesn't love to devour a frozen pizza? And honestly, most people can fit frozen pizzas even in their calories. Most frozen pizzas, if you eat the whole pizza, maybe around 15 to 1,700 calories. I mean, think about it. If you're taking in 3,000 to 3,500 a day, you could afford to eat a frozen pizza. And even if you're not, even if you're on a diet, you can, the frozen pizza a week, there's many reasons I talk about that in my book, why I do that. Even on a diet, I still do the whole pizza just because there's a method behind it. But if you have my book, you know why. So the next plan is the $60 to $70 list. The $60 to $70 list is kind of like the 70 to 80, but with just little things taken out. So, and a little substitution. So instead of spinach, you're going with lettuce. Oh, also too, with the 70 to $80 list, I forgot to mention carrots. Carrots are a great vegetable, easy to digest, very affordable, very cheap, and they go good in salads. They go good in stir fries. They're just a good vegetable to have. And that should also be in the $60 to $70 list too. I apparently forgot to put it in there. But lettuce is on here instead of spinach because lettuce is cheaper than spinach, so I moved it down to the next tier here. Bananas is still on here. White rice is still on here. Canned tuna is still on here. For the meat, I have roast on here because if you want to go a little bit cheaper on your meat and still get around that same amount, you can go with roast, big beef roast or a pork roast. They will supply you with a ton of meat for the week, and they are relatively usually cheaper than going with steaks or even sometimes ground beef or hamburger, and whatnot. So just depends on what's on sale. But pay attention, roasts are always a great option to go to for a meat. You can throw them in a crock pot on Sunday and have meat for the whole rest of the week. And throw a couple potatoes in there too, if you want to do that, or even cook your rice along with it too. I know people that sometimes do that. Next is milk. Obviously, milk had to be on this. Cheese, yes. Bread, yes. And eggs. So yes, the 60 to 70 list is a lot smaller. You're not getting some of those things that you would get in the 70 to 80 list, but you got to make sacrifices. And then you have the $50 list next, which is a lot of substitutions, a lot of minuses, but you can do this. I've had to use this list, but it's lettuce, bananas, canned tuna, white rice, hamburger, milk, bread, and eggs. It's not very exciting. Not very many not very many crazy delicious things on here, but when you're tight on money, you got to do whatever it takes. And with those foods on that $50 list, you can still build an awesome body, because with those foods, you're still getting all those good nutrients. But you're going to notice too, on these lists, I don't have a ton of fruits or a ton of vegetables. I have bananas on there. But I am really a person that believes, in you don't have to have crazy variety in your diet. I know tons of people that go out and buy blueberries and raspberries, strawberries and carrots and celery and broccoli and are constantly buying just all these things. Your body really doesn't know much of a difference. It knows if it's getting fiber, it knows if it's getting vitamins and minerals, it knows if it's getting carbs, fats, or proteins. But the food that you eat, it doesn't know the difference between a strawberry and a blueberry if you're getting the same nutrients. It all comes down to nutrients. That's what the body reads. It doesn't really care about the types of food you get. Just something to remember. You don't need crazy variety in your diet like so many people think. I have gone through most of my life eating the same things over and over and over again. And I like it. Some people need more variety in their diet. For me, I find if I top my meals with salsa or mustard or hot sauce or sriracha, one of my favorite toppings, they taste great. They taste delicious. And as long as you get a good amount of salt on there too, these meals you don't get tired of. They're delicious. They taste great. Sandwiches for lunch every day, awesome. Great. Steak for dinner every night with eggs and rice, awesome. I'm not complaining. I grew up on some days we had hamburger helper and that's all we could have. I mean, literally, it's a blessing to be able to eat the foods I eat nowadays, even if they are the same things all the time. So variety, if you really think you need variety, you really don't. Maybe mentally you do, and that's why I recommend, having a couple days a week where you just eat kind of whatever. If you want to go out, you can go out. And I really go over in my book a lot. So if you have my book, you know what I mean and how to go about that. But for this podcast, I really just wanted to create a system for you guys to follow, that you guys can follow, that will keep you in a budget, that will get you to your goals. So another thing I wanted to put on here. So we're done with the list. Those are the 3 lists. And these lists will be in the show notes. There will be a link taking you to the Google Drive. Just like last week, I'm going to put the show notes in there so you can have a grocery list if you didn't write down any notes while you were listening today. It'll all be in the show notes. You can all download it. But on top of that, I wanted to talk about some other things though today, and that's one of the things is eat something before you go shopping. Far often, psychology is what messes with people's diets. And what I mean by that is when you go to, and you may have heard of this old wives' tale, you go to a grocery store hungry, you're going to buy things you don't need. You're going to buy things that at the time look absolutely delicious. And you come home with things that you wonder later the next week, was I high when I bought this? Was I drunk when I bought this? Because I don't remember buying this. Because your psychological mind of being hungry is what made you purchase this. If you go to the grocery store hungry, you're going to buy a lot of things you just don't need. So one way to avoid that is always go to the grocery store after you have eaten something. Or if you, don't just, if you've built up the discipline, for me, I'm usually fasted at that point. I only eat 2 times a day. So when I go grocery shopping, I'm usually fasted, but I have built up discipline. I've done this for so long in my life that is just discipline to buy what I need. And also for me, I do buy some sweets here and there. I buy, I like Oreo cookies. I like Chips Ahoy cookies. I buy some stuff like that because, for one, I can afford that on my calorie limit. I take in 3,000 to 3,500 calories a day. I can eat some Oreos and cookies a day. It doesn't kill me. So for me, I can allow myself to do that, but you have to look at your goals. Can you allow yourself allow yourself some sweets? Because if you can't without going off the wagon, like some people eat one cookie and then the whole package is gone. If that's you, then you have to avoid that altogether. That is something that you're just going to have to figure out for yourself. Most of my clients, I have them, they have built up to a discipline level to know if they can have a cookie and not want to devour the package, or if they literally can eat a few cookies and feel satisfied with that. That's something mentally that you're going to have to build up to, though, because if you're just getting into this and you have a lot of weight to lose, it can be really hard to not binge eat, to fall off the wagon and totally destroy your diet with just a few cookies, because one cookie turns into 2, 3, 4, the whole package, ice cream and cookies, and then a whole pizza, and then later on you're thinking, did I eat all that? So you just start to fall off the wagon. So if you don't have discipline, I recommend keeping all that stuff out of your house altogether. If you have discipline, though, like myself, you can have those cookies and stuff in your house because you have the discipline to know that you can have that kind of thing and not fall off the wagon. And that just comes with time. That's something that you just build up over time and you can have more of a warrior mentality for. The next thing we're going to go into is supplements. Because when you talk about budget, you have to mention supplements. You can't talk about budgeting without talking about supplements. And for good reason. And I don't know why my sound just cut off there, but when talking about budgeting, we need to talk about supplements. So supplements are something that you don't need because, as the word implies, they are supplement. They are supplement to your diet. But even with that said, there are certain supplements that I have always taken in my life. And not always, but I have built up to the point where I think they are always needed no matter what your budget. Even if you're super poor, I still recommend setting enough money aside for these supplements because they can really help you out in your life, all around in your life, not just in the gym, but all around in your life. The first one is creatine. Now, if you know me, you've read my book, you know how much I love creatine. Creatine is the number one supplement, in my opinion, that everybody should be on. Girl, guy, dog, cat. Just kidding. No, don't put your animals on creatine. Please don't. They'd become beast probably. No, don't do that. But for man, woman, doesn't matter. Creatine is something everybody should be on because the benefits are amazing. Just to name a few off the bat, it helps you take in more water. Helps you bring more water into the muscle, which is a great thing. People say, oh, I'm bloated on creatine. Well, yeah, it's doing its thing. People who say, oh, I take creatine HCl because it doesn't let me bloat, you're defeating the purpose of creatine. The purpose of creatine is to retain more water in the muscle cell because you'll be more powerful. You can generate more force. You have more buildup of creatine kinase in between rest periods. All things that are really good for a lifter. So what? You're a little more bloated. Big ass deal. I hate it when I hear people say, oh, creatine bloats me. It's doing what it's supposed to do. It helps you be more hydrated. As long as you take in enough water with it, it helps you bring in more water, helps you utilize more water. On top of that, you get memory benefits to this, brain health. It is shown in several studies creatine has helped Alzheimer patients. It also helps with just memory loss in general. It helps you concentrate better. It's better for just better brain health. And what is one food that I always recommend? Red meat. Red meat is loaded with creatine. Think about that. How I talked about the benefits of red meat, and then it's loaded with creatine. And on top of that, you take creatine too as a supplement. Creatine is a very good thing. A very good thing that a lot of people, I think, don't take. I mean, there are a lot of people that do, but I think there are still so many that don't. I mean, just for instance, this last week at the gym, I was talking to this guy that's crazy athletic, crazy strong. He's super active, and he was asking me, should I get on creatine? What? This guy is super athletic, being an athlete, living an athlete style, doing all these sports, and he's not utilizing creatine? The one supplement that can change his life altogether? I don't understand. This is, I mean, I have everybody I know uses creatine. Everybody that works with me uses creatine. There's not one person that I've ever said to not use creatine. Creatine is something I think everybody should be on. It's an essential. And also, it's cheap. It's so cheap. You can buy a 5-pound bag of creatine for $15, $20. That'll last you 7 to 8 months. 5 grams a day, every day. I swear by it. That is a supplement I always take no matter what. 5 grams a day, every day. You don't have to take it around your training. It doesn't matter when you take it. You can take it with food, fasted, without food. It doesn't matter. You can take creatine whenever. And the reason I'm getting worked up on this is because I get tons of questions asking, but I read you have to take creatine with grapefruit juice. I read you have to take creatine with high sugar foods. I read you have to take creatine with food in general. The answer is no to all of that. My Australian accent self. The answer to all of that is no. Creatine can be taken whenever. It doesn't matter. Just take it. Take creatine for the love of God. Take creatine. God made creatine for a reason. God gave creatine into beef and into cows for a reason. God intends for people to take creatine. I almost am a positive of that because of how beneficial creatine is for a person. With that said, let's move on to the next supplement. A multivitamin. A multivitamin is just something everybody should get on. Ever since I was little, I've always been on a multivitamin. I've always been raised to take a multivitamin. Things to look for in a multivitamin, make sure it doesn't have iron. I talked about that last week. As long as your multivitamin doesn't have iron, that's a good thing. You do not want to take a multivitamin that has iron, just because too much iron in the body can be a bad thing, a very bad thing. Can cause you to get very sick. So that's something I would just advise, because most people get plenty of iron from their diet. Just look for a multivitamin that doesn't have iron, that is high in B vitamins, high in C, and then, recommended daily doses of fat-soluble vitamins and whatnot. The one I use, Optimum by Optimum Nutrition. I've used that ever since high school. Optimum. It's the best multivitamin on the planet, in my opinion, and it's worth it. It's gone up a crazy amount in price. Like, literally, this supply chains, this is ridiculous. I used to buy Optimum, a 240 capsule thing, for about $20. This week, I had to buy some more, and it lasts for a good, 3 months. But a 240 thing does. But I had to pay $40 for what I used to buy $20. It's gone up over 100% of value. That's crazy. What is going on with this world? I have no idea. Ask the person in the presidency chair, I guess, for that. Okay, salt. I have salt on here as a supplement. And if you ever have heard anything I talk about, you know I love salt. Salt is awesome. Salt should be added to your pre-workout. Whatever you take pre-workout, throw 1/4 teaspoon of salt in there and thank me later. 1/4 teaspoon, that's 500 milligrams of sodium. And make sure it's iodized. It's just something I think everybody could benefit from. Salt is demonized for so many stupid reasons, but I guarantee you the people that are the most jacked in your gym, the people that are the most pumped, take in a lot of sodium every day because they know the benefits of it. Sodium is also, an electrolyte. And electrolytes, if you have my book, I talk a ton about the benefits of balancing your electrolytes. So salt I have on this list just because it is so important, very cheap. I mean, you could buy a whole thing of iodized salt for $1 still, And it's great. Salt is excellent. It's easy to add. You can, as long as you're drinking enough water every day, the amount of salt you use really doesn't matter. Just don't go crazy with it. Don't take in 10,000 milligrams of salt a day. But I've gone on things where I've taken up to 8,000 milligrams. I not very often. In the high summer heat, high summer months, if you're super active, taking in, 7,000, 8,000 might not be terrible. Most days for me, I take in right about 6,000 though. That's usually, if I had to guess, I don't track my sodium, but if I had to guess, I probably taken about 6,000 milligrams a day. Which, yes, Sean, isn't the RDA 2,500 milligrams of salt a day? Why, yes, it is the RDA limit. 2,500 milligrams is. But that's factoring in a person that does not train, that is not do anything crazy athletic. That is factoring in a sedentary person that does nothing. If you don't take in, if you only take, okay, let me get the words right on this. If you are not very active and you don't work out and you sit on a couch most of your day and you don't really care about your body that much, yeah, 2,500 milligrams is a good amount for you because you don't need the extra salt. But if you're in the gym for an hour, hour and a half, you need some salt. You need some more salt than the RDA recommends. Most of my clients are on anywhere from 4,000 to 6,000. And I think I wrote that in my book. If not, that's a good thing to follow. 4,000 to 6,000 is a good level to follow for most people. If you are an extreme athlete and you are sweating a lot, up that 6,000 to, 6,000, 7,000, even 8,000. Going over 8,000, probably wouldn't recommend it. But for the most part, 4,000 to 6,000 works for most people of sodium a day. That's sodium a day. So, next one is a little bit controversial. Controversial in the meaning that, is it needed? Now, at one time in my life, I never thought this was a absolute needed supplement, especially for a budget supplement list. But as I have read more and more about it, as I have looked more at the studies on this and utilized it myself in my training and really noticed the benefits of it, I had to put it on this list, and that is citrulline malate. Citrulline malate is the number one supplement, performance boosting supplement other than creatine that has had studies done on it. And not just that, but it's also been shown in some studies to raise testosterone levels, improve recovery, it improves strength in your training sessions. It allows you to have better endurance. These are all things that citrulline malate has been shown to do. Now, citrulline malate is not the cheapest of supplements, but I believe it should be in your supplement list, even if you're on a budget. And I say that just because of all the other reasons besides the training reasons, like the testosterone boosting effects, the growth hormone boosting effects. These are all things that have been shown in 6 grams of citrulline malate a day that these things achieve. The dosages that were used in studies, the minimum dose is 6 grams a day. The maximum that was used was 9 grams a day. And 9 grams did show a little bit of, quite a bit actually, boosting from the 6 grams. So if you take 6 grams and you went to 9, you probably noticed a little bit of a benefit. Now, would it be enough of a benefit to take religiously? Probably not. Like I said, citrulline malate is pretty expensive. I mean, for 600 grams, which for me last about 3 months, 600 grams last right around 3 months, close to it anyway. And or maybe 2.5 months, 2.5 to 3, depending on how heavy I use it. But I use about 7 grams of citrulline malate a day. I use 1 more than the minimum dose. So, and I take this on my off days too. I don't take 6 grams on my off days though. On my off days, I only take 3 grams. 3 grams was shown to boost the growth hormone and shown to help with recovery and also help with testosterone. So I do 3 grams on my off days that I don't train, but on the 5 training days I do train every week, I do take 7 grams of citrulline malate just because of the added benefits that I have realized and recognized in my training. And I think it's worth it. Like I said, you can get 600 grams for about $30 to $35 depending on the brand. Amazon is your best place to buy this. Also, when you're looking for a ratio, I really like the 2-to-1 ratio, L-citrulline 2 to malate 1. Some people like the 1-in-1 ratio. I go with the 2-to-1 because malate, citrulline and malate, they're different, okay? But they combined is what the citrulline malate is as a supplement. L-citrulline really helps with strength, pump, and malate really helps with performance and energy. So you'll notice if you take more malate, you'll notice your energy goes to the roof, but your strength is not really increased by that much. L-citrulline, though, helps with the strength aspect. So if you are an endurance athlete, maybe I would go with a 1-1 ratio, citrulline to malate, because that way you had more of that way you had equal amounts of malates in there to give you more energy. But for us strength athletes, us bodybuilders, we can really benefit better, I believe, from the 2-to-1 ratio. So I stay with the 2-to-1 ratio of citrulline malate, L-citrulline malate, just to put that clear there. And I think it's worth it. You can get on it, get off it if you want it to see the difference. I always find my workouts are so much better with citrulline malate. So it's something I recommend. And then the next one is vitamin D3. If you listen to last week's podcast, you know why I love vitamin D3, or should I say steroid D3, because vitamin D3 is actually a steroid. Not a vitamin, truly, in the definition of what a vitamin truly is. D3 is actually a natural steroid given to us from the sun. But I recommend taking vitamin D3 in supplemental form. And like I said, if you listen to last week's podcast, I talked all about my vitamin D3 experience, about how much it can totally transform your life. And I told you guys good dosages to use on that, anywhere from 2,000 to 5,000 IU a day. But depending on the person, you might need a little bit more. Good rule to follow, though, is if you live by the equator, you should take in less. If you live farther away from the equator and you don't get as much sun, you take in more. So for myself, I take in right around 5,000 IU a day. But like I said, that's going to vary person to person. I recommend people play with 2,000 to 5,000 IU. Vitamin D3 is very cheap. You can get quite a bit of it for very cheap. That's why it's on this list. And the benefits with testosterone, the natural steroid effects of it, it's an absolute needed in any type of budget. And the last supplement I have on here is zinc. And once again, if you listen to last week's podcast, you know why I love zinc. Zinc totally rebuilds the body. Zinc allows your cells to your cells reproduction, your cells to recover, general cell recovery and whatnot on a cellular level, which is great for overall health. Most things like what's that thing called? Airborne. Airborne has zinc in it. Airborne is something that you don't hear about much about it these days. But when I was younger, when you were starting to get sick, you took Airborne. Really, all that has in it is a lot of zinc. Zinc helps you not get sick, boost your immune system, raises natural testosterone levels, keeps everything good, increases the health of your semen and sperm. It's just a great thing I think everybody should be on. 50 milligrams a day is what I take every night before bed on a fasted stomach, not with dairy especially. Do not take zinc with dairy or with calcium, anything with calcium. Zinc and calcium compete with each other for absorption, so always take zinc separate from any type of dairy products or calcium products for that matter. But I just take it right before bed. It makes you sleep a lot better. It also makes you dream really, really crazy dreams. And also a little benefit, if you remember from last week, if you have a sexy dream when you're taking zinc, it is amazing in many ways. So those are the supplements right there: creatine, multivitamin, salt, citrulline malate, vitamin D3, and zinc. The coolest thing about these is you don't have to buy these every month. These last for a good, 3 months. So in altogether, all those supplements together probably only cost maybe, if I had to roughly guess, $70. $70 every 3 months. If you can not afford $70 every 3 months, I don't know what you're doing in your life. It's not that much money. Those are supplements I think everybody should use. Notice how there are not things on that list like whey protein or beta-alanine or things like that. These are the ones that have the most studies behind them, the most beneficial to take, that everybody should be on. Man, woman, does not matter. Everyone should be on those supplements. So the next thing in this podcast I want to discuss is subscriptions, life subscriptions, because the money that we use every week, should be budgeted appropriately. And this isn't just for supplements, but needs to be budgeted right out altogether. Because if your budget is not right, out of your grocery list, it's going to fall apart other places. You need to have a solid budget everywhere. So I thought, why not just talk about everything in this podcast when it comes to budgeting? Because this is not just a fitness podcast. This is a life podcast. This is a warrior podcast. To be a warrior. And a warrior knows a system for everything. They plan everything out. They're analytical about everything. They think 10 steps ahead. And a budget is thinking 10 steps ahead. So subscriptions, Spotify or Apple Music. That is a subscription I think every lifter should have, just because of all the benefits it has. I mean, a premium Spotify subscription right now is $16. Or I guess that's a family one. I'm trying to think. I'm on a family premium. I cover my family's Spotify premium, and I pay $16 a month for our premium plan that I cover for my family. But I'm trying to think what that is premium for just a single person. I don't know. It's probably a lot less than that. Probably $7, $8. Easily worth it for a Spotify premium plan. Or Apple Music. If you're not a Spotify fan, go with Apple Music. I am a huge fan of Spotify just because it's open source. It helps smaller artists a little bit more than Apple Music does. It's a lot easier to put things on Spotify than it is Apple. But that's just my opinion. Whatever one works. And other subscription plans, you just got to put in what you like. Some people have all these movie subscription plans and everything. For me, I have Netflix, I have Hulu, I like anime, so I have all the anime subscriptions. I have Crunchyroll, Funimation, you name it, probably I have it. Just because anime is a big thing in my life. It's helped me through a lot of dark times in my life. So I do watch quite a bit of anime. It helps me out just psychologically in my life. So I put money toward that. But the subscriptions you have, just find the budget, allow the money that you need to put toward it, and make sure you can afford it. The good thing is most subscriptions are not too expensive. It's pretty cheap, actually. Most subscriptions run right around $6 to $8 a month. Pretty affordable for most people. The next one is clothing, and I talked a little bit about this, but let's go more into it. Buy cheap, unbranded clothes. No one cares what you wear to the gym. No one cares what you wear. No one cares about that super expensive, cool gym shirt you bought, or those cool shorts or cool shoes. So maybe somebody will say cool shoes, but is it really worth justifying a $70 to $80 purchase for those shoes? Really? I just don't understand people that blow their money on all this branded stuff. I mean, there are so many brands out there like Gymshark. What's another one? Christian Guzman's brand, Athlete or Alphalete. These brands are ridiculously expensive, and people pay a fortune for them. Like, you go on their sites, and their shirts are like $45 to $50. You know how many cool shirts, or know how many unbranded, nice-fitting shirts I can buy for $7 on Amazon? A ton. I can buy 4 unbranded shirts that fit pretty nice, pretty clean, and they have no brands on them. They're super cheap, $7 a shirt. And I can buy, like 5 of those shirts for the price of one of those Gymshark or Alphalete shirts or, shorts or whatnot. It's just crazy. It's absolutely crazy how many young people I see waste money on this stuff. And I hear about it, hear them talk, all about, might get sponsored by Gymshark. You're not going to get sponsored by Gymshark. I hate to tell you. You have to get sponsored by Gymshark, you have to have such an incredible physique that it's worthy of them throwing money to you to advertise their product. And the fact is, too, that market is oversaturated like crazy. I mean, it's just oversaturated. It's oversaturated, something that just needs to be forgotten about, trying to be a sponsored athlete. If you can find maybe a brand that just came about, that's a starter brand, maybe then you could build up and be a sponsored athlete. But these people that throw all this money, I mean, I know some people that throw thousands of dollars for this gym clothes, and it's crazy to think about that. It's crazy. Think about what $1,000 in the S&P, if you would have invested that extra $1,000 into the S&P for your last year would have been. That $1,000 would be, I'd have to do the math, but you're going to make over. I mean, I think the S&P is up over 140% from last year. That's huge. That's huge. That's huge. Okay, you could have over doubled your money if you would have put that extra 1,000 in the market, the stock market, instead of putting it into, clothes that you're going to outgrow and probably get bigger than, and clothes that also just is terrible quality too. I mean, I have bought Gymshark in my life. I have bought Elf Elite. I have bought these brands. These brands don't hold up. I usually wear them for maybe 3 months or maybe a year if I'm lucky, and they fall apart. These shirts that I usually wear, I buy for $7 off Amazon. I think their next level, their next level is what the tag says, but I think they're just like nice loose fitting shirts. And I honestly, I haven't bought these shirts that I'm wearing now. I think I purchased the shirt I'm wearing currently. I think I purchased this shirt in 2018, and I'm still wearing it. It still fits great. I mean, literally, the quality, you don't have to waste money on this stuff that just doesn't make any sense. It blows my mind when I hear people waste money on stuff like that. Shoes, it's like, just nobody cares. Nobody cares about what you wear to the gym. They care if you're jacked. I wear not very pleasing stuff in the gym. Most people probably look at me and think I'm like a hobo off the street because of my long hair, my non-branded clothes, my jogging pants I probably purchased from Walmart. But if I was to take my shirt off and flex, I guarantee people be like, okay, wow, that guy's freaking jacked. It's what under the clothes matters, not the clothes. The clothes doesn't matter. People, it's just something you just have to, if you really like to buy clothes, I guess budget into your budget, I guess whatever. I would much rather invest the $1,000 though into the stock market, because that will get me a return for my money and not a loss of my money per se. The next thing on here is hygiene. So I think some people too spend way too much money on super high branded hygiene products. And I did for a long time. I would always buy the highest priced deodorant and stuff, and it was stupid. It wasn't until I literally had to live like I was poor when I lost my job back in 2018, and I literally had to live like I was poor. So I literally had to switch everything. And I'm glad I went through that phase, because I learned how to live like very cheap. I learned very cheap. I learned so many lessons in that year that I was unemployed from 2018 to 2019, because I learned how to live so cheap. And these are some things I learned from hygiene. So, that Axe deodorant you use that is almost $6 for a thing? Start buying Right Guard deodorant. It's only $2 a thing, and it works just as good, or actually better, I think. I think I sweat less using Right Guard deodorant than I used with Axe, and it smells just as good. And it's super cheap, $2. $2 a Right Guard deodorant, and it lasts all day long too. I mean, it blows my mind when I think about how much money I could have saved had I switched to Right Guard 10 years ago. It's just something to think about. Next one is Suave shampoo and conditioner. Now, if you know me, I have long hair, and I care about the health of my hair. Okay, I think having long hair is a pretty cool thing. That's something I grew over time, and it's kind of like an accomplishment for me. But many people think, I think they think that when you have long hair, you have to use tons of products. I don't use any products in my hair. I use Suave shampoo and conditioner. It's so cheap. $2 for shampoo, $2 for conditioner, $4 for each. And if you follow my tips that I have for growing your hair out, which is condition every other day, shampoo only once a week, you don't use much. You really can make that last. These people that spend all this money on tons of high dollar hair products and whatnot, it's crazy. Suave shampoo and conditioner is a great one. The anti-frizz one is what I use personally. I think it's a great one. It's very cheap. It works great. It cleans the hair. I mean, what more can you ask? The next one is buy the cheapest laundry detergent and use only a quarter of the measurement it tells. So a lot of people think that on laundry detergent, you have to use exactly what it tells you on the side to have clean clothes. This is asinine. Think about it. They want you to use more of it, so you go back and buy more of it. You have to start thinking like you are the creator of the product. Use less of the product. It still does the same thing that most products say, fill the cup up, the one that you unscrew from the top, you fill that up to the top and use it. Buy the cheapest one in the store and then use a quarter of it. Use like 1/4 of what the measurement actually tells you. Your clothes will still be the same clean. It'll still smell great. And guess what? You won't have to buy that laundry detergent for at least 6 to 8 months. You'll make one thing that usually would only last maybe a month, last 6 months. Easy little thing that you should do. Everybody should do that. I learned this trick in college, actually. It was a great little trick. Saved me a lot of money. Next one is interesting. And I learned this during COVID. Buy napkins, not paper towels or tissues. Okay? Napkins are a bag of napkins. Get this. A huge bag of napkins is only $2. It's actually $1.76, but it rounds up with tax to around $2. A thing of paper towels and tissues, for a tissue box, you're paying around $3 a tissue box, $3.50, somewhere in there. And paper towels, you're buying around $6. So you're going to buy like $10 worth of stuff when you're paying for buying paper towels and tissues. What I do, I buy napkins. I use napkins for tissues. I use napkins for paper towels. And I pay $1.76 a giant package. Switch to napkins. Stop using paper towels and tissues. It's super cheap. Very easy, quick fix. Saves you about $10 a week. Or saves you about $10 every 2 weeks. Use that money to buy steak. The next one is, this one's a really controversial one. Might get hate on this. A lot of women probably would hate on this one. But for us men, man up. Cheapest toilet paper that you can buy. Buy it. Okay? I know people will say, oh, I gotta have something soft to wipe my ass. No, you don't. Toilet paper is toilet paper. The cheapest, you can buy cheap toilet paper. I learned this during COVID. When there was only cheap toilet paper available, I had to use it. And I was like, wow, this stuff isn't that bad. You just maybe double up a little bit and you're good to go. It's not a big deal. Switch to cheaper toilet paper. You save tons of money doing that. And the last one is, this is a good one. I learned this, and I'll talk about it here. Don't waste money on haircuts. So I'm going to tell you right now, you should do one of two things. Have a buzz cut or grow your hair out long. One of those two things. Why do I say that? Because a buzz cut, you can cut your own hair. It doesn't take much to do. You can easily buy a electric trimmer and trim your own hair. Easy. Easy little buzz cut. No money cost. The other option, if you don't like your hair super short, is to grow it out. Because guess what? When your hair is super long, you cut your own hair. I cut my own hair. I never get my hair cut by anybody. I cut my own hair. I have a method to do it. Works really well. Looks good. And I never have to spend money on that. I know tons of people that spend money every other week to get a clean haircut. It's crazy. The one type of hair that you should not have is a medium cut haircut, because you cannot cut your hair when it's medium cut. You cannot tend to it yourself. You have to have somebody else do it. But when your hair is super long, you can cut it yourself. When your hair is super short, or bald for that matter, you can shave it or cut it yourself. Do not have a medium cut haircut. Medium cut haircuts are the worst because you have to pay money to keep those. You can't cut your own hair when it's medium cut. It's just almost impossible. It's super hard to do, and it probably looks terrible if you did try it. So for one, don't try that if you have a medium cut haircut. And for the other people, just either do one of two things. Grow your hair out super long, like I have chosen to do myself, or get a super short buzz cut, if you don't like long hair. I personally stay with long hair just because I don't like the way I look with short hair. Also, when you have long hair, if you want short hair for the day, you just tie it back in a nice tied up fashion and you have short hair for the day. And if you want to look like a beast, you let your hair out and you look like a freaking beast. Long hair is just the best in my opinion, but that's just an opinion I have. But like I said, just find a hairstyle that you can do on your own, that you can manage on your own, because haircuts are expensive. People that cut hair, you are literally paying. I'm trying to think back when I was in high school and I had a medium cut haircut. 30, and I went to a cheap barber too. I was paying like $30 a cut or something like that. There are people that pay $80 to $100 a cut when you can cut your own hair. And maybe I should do a YouTube video on how to cut long hair because it's super simple. Cutting long hair is one of the easiest things. I trim my hair maybe twice every year. just to cut the dead ends off. For me, I like my length right about under my chest. That's just where I like my length of my hair. And it's super easy to do. And if you have super short hair, it's even easier. You just take a buzz and you just find the buzz measurement that you want and you do it yourself. It's up to you what you want to do. Just don't waste money on haircuts. Find a hairstyle that you can manage on your own, because it's all about saving money at the end of the day. It's all about saving money and putting away and investing what you do not use to build wealth at a young age. Next one, eating out. Okay, eating out. We are talking about restaurants here. Mine's out of the gutter, please. So the first thing I have on this list I wrote is fajitas. So if a restaurant has fajitas, it's a great choice. Fajitas have a protein. They come with rice, vegetables, and they usually aren't too expensive. They're usually right around, $6 a meal, 6, 7 maybe. But you're usually not paying more than that for a good order of fajitas. The main thing is to look for an option that has a meat, a carb, and a veggie. And on the side, you can order a beer, a light beer. A light beer is usually cheap on the budget and also cheap on your calorie budget as well. And like I said, just find that combination that goes well with you. I've always found just finding a meat, a carb, and a veggie, and a light beer. That's if I'm trying to be really strict with my calories. I mean, most of the time I eat what I want, but if I'm trying to be strict with my calories or dieting down for something, that's what I go to. A meat, a carb, a veggie, and a light beer. Okay, the next one I have is going out, night out on the town. So here's a little tip. Stick with light beer or whiskey, or maybe a vodka too. Vodkas are very low in calorie. If you're doing shots, RIP to those that drink the half bottle though. That's a back shadow to my experience in college that maybe I'll talk about one day. But I will never drink vodka again after that night. But if you want to though, go out, have a good time, but stick with the light beer, whiskey. Don't do mixed drinks. Don't do margaritas. Don't do things that are high priced on the menu and also high calorie. You can have a great night with just beer and whiskey. I do all the time. Avoid heavy, expensive drinks. Like the words say, just avoid the heavy, expensive drinks. Calorie-wise, too, just avoid heavy calorie drinks. And make sure your date knows your goals and understands them. The person that you go out with, make sure that they know that you're trying to reach some goals and that they aren't going to try to peer pressure you into breaking your goals off and falling off your schedule and off your system that you're trying to achieve. But that's all there is to it, really, guys. I've covered, food, supplements, life, going out on the town. I've covered basically everything it comes to talk about, when it talks to budgeting. The main thing to remember, guys, is you want to create a lifestyle where you don't have to worry about money. That is the number one thing, when you're going about life, the working field, you need to care about. That is what you need to worry about. Figuring out how to make a lifestyle where you don't need to worry about money. And how you do that is you create a budget, you stick to that budget, and you invest everything that you don't need and let it build over time. And you will retire pretty wealthy and retire at a young age too. We're not talking about retiring at 65. Anybody who follows me knows that it's not retiring at 65. I don't even know if I want to live to be 65. I mean, honestly speaking, you have tons of health problems. Most people experience starting to get health problems after 60. Why would you want to wait to retire when you're going to have all those health problems? If I lived to be 50, I'd be happy. As long as I live those 50 years, great. I would rather live a happy life and live the life that I want to live rather than work all the way to be 65 for somebody and then count on retirement money to make me live to however long I'm going to live. And on top of that, start having tons of health problems that you're going to have to figure out how to pay for and deal with. Don't think about the future, guys. I know a lot of people say, think about the future, plan for your future. If there's one thing I have learned in my life, live every day like it's your last, but invest everything that you don't use. Those are two things that I want you to do. Start living like every day is your last. Praise God every day. Thank Him for what you have. Thank Him for the day that He has given you. But invest everything that you don't use. And you will retire at a very young age and live a great life, the life that God intends you to live. So with all that, guys, I hope you got something from this podcast. If you have any questions, feel free to email me at Fausey, FAUSEY14 @gmail.com. Message me on any social media platform, Facebook, Instagram. My direct messages are always open. If you're not following me on Instagram yet, make sure and go follow me. I'm trying to build the following up on there. For some reason, the followers that I've built over the years have never translated to Instagram. I don't know why that is. Instagram is like the best platform in my opinion. But if you're not following me on Instagram, Fausey14 on Instagram, you can find me on there or search Sean Fausey, SHAWN, FAUSEY. And like I said, the show notes to this show are on my Google Drive. There will be a bit link in the wherever you're listening to this podcast in the description. At the end of the description, there will be a link that will take you to the show notes where you can look through the show notes. And if you didn't take notes today, there's the grocery list on here, everything you need, and it's all for free, as always. And hope you guys enjoyed today's podcast. We will see you next week. God bless and stay strong.